Alton Towers is one of the most popular theme parks in the UK. Home, in my opinion, to our best lineup of roller coasters, this park has so much going for it. But sadly, in recent years, the park has suffered a little bit of neglect, all worsened by the uncertainty brought on by lockdowns. However, this season, new management has come to the park. And with this, we are already seeing some positive changes. Whilst it's still pretty early days for this new leadership, things are already looking rather exciting. Last year, we made a video discussing the issues with UK theme parks. Now, while many still remain present at Alton Towers, we wanted to balance our last video with a more positive example. Whereas the start of the season has seen Blackpool Pleasure Beach showcase things only getting worse, we believe quite the opposite is true of Alton Towers. As already stated, Alton Towers has an incredible lineup of roller coasters, but one of the places where we think they fail is consistent theming. This has always been such a shame, because Alton Towers have so many great storylines surrounding their roller coasters. Within the coasters themselves, this is well showcased in theming, but unfortunately, the areas surrounding them often don't hold up. However, this year, some big improvements have been made in Forbidden Valley. The park spent the whole of last year retracking Nemesis in order to preserve this iconic coaster. Efforts could have easily stopped there, but Alton Towers decided to take things much further. An entire storyline was developed surrounding the coaster in order to keep enthusiasm high whilst it was closed. This even resulted in Nemesis Subterra reopening last season, something we believe was long overdue. Thanks to all this build-up, it didn't come as a shock to see that the work done on Nemesis Reborn was beyond impressive. The coaster has reopened with the most stunning painted track, an all-new queue route offering amazing views, and a glorious station, topped off with one of the best roller coaster theming elements we've ever seen, the Eye. Things could have stopped there and we'd still be impressed, but the nearby cafe and surrounding area has all been rethemed to match, and a brand new shop has opened up. Ongoing work seems to suggest that a large arcade will also be coming soon. With all this, we truly believe Nemesis Reborn is one of the best things to happen to Alton Towers since Nemesis originally opened in 1994. But the entirety of Forbidden Valley has unfortunately not yet been saved. Galactica is still in a terrible state and completely disrupts the beautiful efforts at the top half of the land. Like many others, we'd absolutely love to see Galactica receive a retheme soon, and think it would be just incredible if this could all tie into Nemesis Reborn's storyline. With this, Alton Towers would truly have a very well-themed and complete land in our opinion. Other areas of the park have also received some love during the off-season. In fact, even the path from the car park has been paved and cleaned up. Wickerman's light and fire are all working, and Tower Street, which had already impressed us by getting the frog fountains working again, looks very bright. Plus, the Nemesis decorations here are a beautiful cherry on top, especially the frog's little phalanx uniforms. It's wonderful to see the park giving Nemesis Reborn the appreciation it deserves by celebrating it at the park's entrance. Oh, and by it being on the cover of this year's map, which brings up a very important point for us theme park map collectors. Paper maps are back. Then, over in X Sector, the Smiler has got some nice new lights, and Oblivion has been brightened up with some fresh paint. While this land has always been one of the best for consistent theming, it is sad to see the area without a single flat ride. We'd really like to see this solved with some permanent and well-themed additions pretty soon. In fact, this brings up another good change. The Retro Squad rides are finally gone. Alton Towers have long neglected their flat ride lineup, and bringing in travelling fair rides really wasn't a good solution. We'd love to see this issue truly tackled with some well-themed flat rides. While the Retro Squad were a good idea to up ride capacity during times of uncertainty, their disruptive funfair look did little to help with the park's overall image. Although, one does remain over in the world of David Walliams. New for 2021, this area is already beginning to look pretty run down. The Funfair ride, Flavio's Fabulous Fandango, at least looks more cohesive here than the rest of the Retro Squad did, but it still feels out of place in a theme park like Alton Towers. The lack of maintenance this area seems to have received does make us wonder about its future. Although pretty new, this land has never seen much popularity. The David Walliams IP seems to have been a pretty odd choice, and we can't help but wonder if Alton Towers regret spending their money on this land. Like many others have said, we'd really love to see this area transformed into something revolving around Alton Towers' original characters. These characters, such as the Alton Bear, Eric the Yeti, and Darwin the Dodo, have been finding their way into the parks more and more these days. From meet and greets to entire shows, they are getting some good airtime, but we'd love to see them finally get what they deserve: a permanent, well-themed dark ride. The nearby Alton Towers dungeons are thankfully confirmed to be closing soon for good. This upcharge experience has never seen much success. Rumoured to be becoming a Scarefest attraction, we'd also be happy to see this area become an expansion of our dream Alton Towers character land. Why not use it to make a Darwin the Dodo dark ride? Speaking of dark rides, last year saw the Curse at Alton Manor open up. Whilst only an overhaul of Jewel and not, at least to us, a world-class dark ride, this is still one of the best that the UK has to offer. The general theming of the area and the theme treats on offer are all nice to see, and, like Forbidden Valley, hopefully a good sign of things to come. We really believe that this level of theming should become a standard all across the park. On the topic of standards, let's hop over to the place where we think standards are the lowest, the Dark Forest. Like Thorpe Park, Alton Towers seems obsessed with barely differentiated dark themes. The Dark Forest, always hard to differentiate in name from the gloomy woods, perfectly represents this. Although personally I'm a huge horror fan, not everyone is. Plus, despite what it might seem like, Alton Towers isn't actually a horror theme park. Born out of the destruction of Ugland, ironically a land with unique and much-loved theming, this area became yet another part of Alton Towers that bases itself on a horror-type theme. It's also quite clear to see that little money was spent on this conversion, with most changes simply being new signage and a fresh lick of paint. The obvious obsession with dark theming in the UK is already strange given its repetitiveness. But it becomes even weirder when you consider the grey and gloomy nature of our climate. We really think that lands with bright colours and joyful moods would be much more appreciated and a great contrast to what has become the norm. We think a lighter theme here would really help to diversify the park. Perhaps even a return to Ugland to play into nostalgia. Just imagine the return of either the Bone Shaker or the Ugg Swings, and some bright colours in the park. The only place that bright colours can currently really be found is over in CBeebies land. As adults without children, we rarely spend much time here, but from what we hear, it's pretty popular with its target demographic, which is awesome. Our problem is located just outside of CBeebies land, and that is none other than Spinball Whizzer. Sitting all alone, this coaster targets a slightly taller audience and was therefore never initiated into the CBeebies crew. But since losing its sonic theming, it has seemed to fall a little bit into neglect. We'd actually love to see this get a new theme, and wouldn't even mind it getting a CBeebies one. We think it would really help to open up this area of the park, and with a still pretty low height limit, we think it still caters pretty well to the older end of the CBeebies audience. Sadly, Alton Towers still seems to be having quite a few operational issues. Ride reliability is slightly better than it once was, but it's still not great. Many coasters have already experienced a lot of downtime or have only been running one train so far this season. Then there is the Sky Ride, which appears to be down for the foreseeable future. Although, with all the work that has been done to the ride stations, this does seem to have been an unavoidable decision, not one which was planned for. Then there are the rapids, which have been closed at the start of the season, something the park did not notify guests of. Another closure has also occurred with Hex. Planned to be opened the first day of the season with some well-advertised changes, this attraction has had to remain closed due to technical issues. While things like this are often out of the park's control, their prevalence does point to the fact that ride maintenance still has a way to go at the park. The tower's ruins are also not open this season, seemingly due to concerns about vandalism. While this is understandable, it's such a shame to see the beautiful ruins sit mostly inaccessible. We believe either employing security guards or offering paid tours would be worthwhile. Upcharge experiences are something we have already seen the park add this season, such as the track walks on Wicker Man and Oblivion. There is also the rather pricey Nemesis event. While there have been some complaints about these, such experiences always have opening issues, and if these are all resolved, we'd love to see them expand, perhaps even to offer something to do with the towers themselves. Speaking of new experiences, the start of the season has also seen the first few Alton Towers After Dark events. These events, included with your regular admission, see the park opening later into the night, allowing for some night rides outside of the typical Scarefest season. Late night rides have become such a rarity at UK theme parks that this event has unsurprisingly been welcomed with open arms. The park have also added tons of Streetmosphere actors, which is brilliant to see. This really helps to keep the coaster storylines alive and helps the park feel lively and exciting. Honestly, since Disney parks have cut such things recently, it's really nice to see that Alton Towers still know the importance of Streetmosphere. Alton Towers had already seen a lot of Streetmosphere come in the form of special events. We really enjoy many of these, especially Mardi Gras and Oktoberfest, which add a bit of colour to the mostly horror-themed park. With these events also comes the presence of food stalls, which brings me on to my final point. Food is still a major issue at Alton Towers. It's so expensive and most of it is pretty terrible. Even the roller coaster restaurant, which, gimmicky or not, we really used to like, has become pretty poor these days. Menu options have really been stripped back here, and it looks like there's not even any themed drinks this year, which is disappointing as most were at least expecting one to celebrate the opening of Nemesis Reborn. At one point, this restaurant was actually a must-do for us on our trips, but we haven't visited it in quite a while. Often, the special event food stalls are the best places you can find anything to eat. But with no pass holder discounts, they aren't really a popular solution. They truly feel like a band-aid on a bullet wound. Alton Towers and UK theme parks in general could learn a lot by looking at the food offerings of theme parks in mainland Europe. European theme parks generally have excellent food choices, even healthy ones, and sit-down restaurants which would stand on their own even outside of a theme park. I do believe that the lack of decent food offerings at our parks is a key element which deters many people, particularly families, from visiting the parks, or in some cases from visiting them as frequently as they would if better food was on offer. So it truly is an essential issue for the park to sort out. But with all the positive changes we are starting to see, we are pretty hopeful, at least more hopeful than ever before, that the issues pointed out in this video will be solved in the next few years. What do you think? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, check out my links in the description and some of my past videos. Also, let us know in the comments what are your thoughts on the current state of Alton Towers. Are you, like us, hopeful for the future, or do you not see the positive changes that we are pointing to?